Joe Herrera, based out of Las Vegas, just to give you an idea of our business that may help. So Taylor and I run 4 different businesses. Today, I'm going to talk about one aspect of one of the businesses I'm in charge of. So my 2 responsibilities are running our real estate team here in Las Vegas. We've got, I don't know, 50 agents on our team. Some of them do business. The vast majority of them do nothing. And that, I think, is just the real estate space. And maybe I'm a bad leader. The other part of our business is I do run a network in North America. We've got well over 3,000 agents in our network. And so I was just on a call with a group in Texas we're bringing on that, has 100 some odd agents coming over to Real. And so I do spend a lot of my time doing that. Taylor runs another part of our business, which is our investment business. We'll do 125 deals this year in 2025. I'd like for it to be more. I'm helping him in whatever way I possibly can. Super stoked about some of the cool stuff happening at Real with, we just bought a house with Real's money, basically. For those of you guys who've heard the legends of Real Wallet, we're actually doing it. We borrowed $450,000 from Real. No points up front, no points on the back end, no required amount of time that we have to hold the money. We're just going to pay 10% interest, and we're going to flip the house, and we're going to kick it back. Real will make a little bit of money in the form of interest, and we're going to make a ton of money on the property. So they are not in Houston. We need to find some more people there in Houston. So that's, and Taylor also runs our joint venture relationship. So we're a part of a title company with Real. We're part of a mortgage company. We're working on a new mortgage venture here shortly, and that's his job. So my job is running our team and our network. His job is running our investment business and our joint venture relationships. Today, I'm going to talk about, very simply, this complete fact. GCI is a lie, and it rhymes, so it's catchy, whatever, but it's just the truth. Like, we're a part of Real Trends. I think we're the number 3 team in the state of Nevada for all companies. We're top, I think, 100 nationwide. And when Real Trends posts their top 100 teams in the country, they base it off of gross commission earned. They don't talk about profitability. They don't talk about what it costs to run that business. They don't talk about anything. All they talk about is either units done or GCI created. Well, the problem with that principle is that gross commission, GCI income, is a lie. So if I go to Brian, him and his wife run a group there in Florida, and I'm like, hey, Brian, tell me about your business. He's very simply, because of the way our industry has, Brian wouldn't do this, but someone in Brian's shoes may go like, we do about 3 million in GCI a year. It just doesn't matter, right? Like, there are people that do $200,000 in net commission income off of $300,000 in GCI that make more than a team leader sometimes doing 2 million in gross commissions. So I'm not sure if you've ever thought about that in the past, but gross commission income is irrelevant. What matters is what your net commission income is. That's all that actually matters. When it's all said and done, the amount of money that you bring home to live your life is all that matters. And so when I got into real estate, there was the slogan of the National Association of Realtors, which is, we are realtors. Real estate is our life. Real estate is not my life, which is why every time I'm on a stage, or for the most part, every time I start one of these calls, I can talk about what I do for a living, running my business. But who I am is a passionate husband and an obsessed father, and probably a somewhat addicted golfer. Like, that's who I am as a human being. I sell real estate, or I run real estate companies. But the reason I do all of that is to get some net commission so that I can, literally 20 minutes ago, Southwest Airlines, this is a complete segue, or like a detour. By the way, today's the last day of 40% off of Southwest airline flights to Hawaii. So while I was on another call, Brian's writing it down. I literally booked a flight for my wife and I for our anniversary to Hawaii. It costs 27,000 points. She has a companion pass with me. 27,000 points round trip nonstop to Maui in April. And I just sent her a text and said, happy anniversary. And so like, that's why I do what I do, is so that I can live a life that I want to live. I grew up with virtually nothing. Like my mom left. She was a compulsive gambler. She left when I was 10. My dad lived paycheck to paycheck, installing computer systems. He worked for the Bell system, and then it ended up at AT&T, and like he just lived paycheck to paycheck. And so now everything I do is to build a life that I didn't have, that I never saw. And I want you to think about this. Money, I did not come from money. So money must come from me. My children, like my son, has a different challenge. Well, I'm not the wealthiest person in the world, but he came from money. He has to figure out how to continue it. He has to figure out how to build a world for himself. Like, I became financially independent when I was like 15 years old. I just worked and provided for myself because my dad never gave me anything. My son has a different challenge. So sorry for that detour, but net commission is why I do what I do. Bragging about gross commission is gross. It's just not how we feed our family. Net commission is what matters. So here's how to calculate your return on investment when it comes to leads. That will tell you what your net commission is, what your ROI is. So as a team, let's just say, as a non-producing team leader, let's run some math. For me, I have to understand my cost to acquire a lead. I have to understand my conversion rates of those leads. And then I have to understand how much of that lead I keep, like how much of that gross commission I keep to run my team, because that becomes my return on investment. So here's what it looks like if I'm running a Zillow team in Las Vegas. This is why it did not work for me. Now, having said that, if you guys have any questions as I go, feel free to raise your hand or whatever, and I'll do my best to get to them. Not talking about Zillow Flex, but just talking about the traditional Zillow model of buying leads. The cost to acquire a lead in Las Vegas is about $400 a pop. The temptation of saying, I closed a deal at $15,000 that cost me $400 sounds sexy. The problem with that is, if it cost me $400 to acquire a lead, and from the acquisition of that lead, I generate $15,000 in gross commissions, if every single lead I get closes, that would be the mathematics of running that deal. So then I would say, if it cost me $400 to acquire a lead, it generated a $15,000 gross commission. I 50-50 it with my agents. They keep $7,500. We keep $7,500. I would subtract the $400 it cost me to get that lead, and I would make $7,100 for every single lead we generate. The problem is Zillow's published close rate is right around 4%. So if you'll humor me for a second, take out your phone and run this math with me. So at $400 a pop, so this is how you evaluate every single lead opportunity you get. All you need to know is, what is the cost per lead and what is the conversion rate? So at $400 a pop, if Zillow tells me the conversion rate is 4%, I'm going to divide it by 0.04, and it's going to tell me my cost per closing is $10,000. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Or I have to know this, because I can't just say, oh, this is awesome, I spent $400 and I got a $15K gross commission, because it doesn't work that way. So if you're the solo entrepreneur generating the leads for yourself, you'd have to say, at $10,000 cost per closing and a $15,000 GCI, you technically make $5,000, which is great. Now, the only levers you can really pull if you're in business with Zillow is a higher sales price, if that's possible. To some degree, you're going to get what you're going to get, but you can mess with then the conversion rate. So let's see how, if I pull the lever of getting my conversion rate from 4% to 6%, I put in $400, I divide it by 0.06. Now you can see my cost goes down to 6,600 per closing. So now if I then get 15,000 again, I netted 8,500 instead of 5,000 because I improved my conversion rate. So you can pull the conversion rate lever, but for the sake of teaching a class to a whole bunch of agents, I just have to use the national average, right? So here's what it looks like. Can you see when I hover over that? Okay. So at $400 per lead and a published conversion rate of 4%, it's a $10,000 cost per closing. 15K is the GCI. Now that's a pretty good gross commission in Vegas. In your market, that may be pennies, but in Vegas, I mean, that's like a $700,000 deal at 2.5% or a $500,000 deal at 3%. Like it's not bad. So if it's 50-50 between us and the agent, 7,500 goes to the agent, 7,500 goes to the team will have lost $2,500 to do that deal. This is why our $15,000 a month agreement we had with Zillow didn't work. We were closing deals. We just weren't able to make those deals profitable because the gross commission versus cost per closing versus conversion rate wasn't working. So sorry for the question, but how do you calculate your conversion rate? Very simply, it takes time, right? The thing that Zillow has is they have time and they have data. So Zillow's able to tell you what their conversion rate is. I believe when Taylor and I were in Seattle meeting with Zillow, they told us it was like 3.8%. But over time, you can look and say, you don't even have to know the cost in order to calculate conversion rate. You just have to know how many leads did you generate and how many deals did you do. So let's say our lead program, we create 200 leads per month. So I would times that by 12. That would be 2,400 closings over the course of a year. Now, if I said, let's say we closed 20 transactions of 24, so you would take 20 divided by 2,400, and it would give us like about an 8% conversion rate, right? So 24 deals out of 2,400 would be, is that 1%? So we would actually need to close significantly more than that. So let me say, if we did 20 deals divided by 2,400, yeah, we would do, so the easiest way to factor it is to say, as a team, if we did 120 deals divided by 2,400, that'd be about a 5% conversion rate, which is probably what we would expect. So what you have to do is you have to take the total number of deals you do from a lead source and divide that by the number of leads you created. So if it's 100 closings and you divide it by 3,000 opportunities, you're at a 3% conversion rate. Does that make sense? So however many leads you close, divided by how many leads you created will give you your conversion rate. So for us, we generate a lot of leads from Facebook. We average about a 4% conversion rate over time. We'll generate, I think last year we closed right around 300 leads from Facebook. And I think we generated like, I don't even know. Let me see. Yeah, I think we generated 10,000 leads and closed 300. So if we say 300 divided by 10,000, yeah, that's right around 3%. So we were at like 3% last year. So let's run this math. How long from lead to closing, Bob? It really depends. Like I will say from Facebook, you're probably jumping in line ahead of Zillow or Realtor.com. So your lag time may be a little bit longer, but I mean, over time, the average may be about the same. We've had people that came in as a lead on Saturday, went into escrow on Tuesday and closed 30 days later. And then we've had people that have been in our database for like 3 years and they finally pop. So on average, I would say it's probably 50% longer on a Facebook lead to close than a Zillow lead. But what we want to do is we want to go like, oh, well, no, I closed a Zillow lead that came in on Friday. I put them in escrow on Saturday. That's totally cool. How often does that happen? Because what we love to talk about is the exceptions. What I'm talking about today is actually the rule. So here's how I can make it work for me. Remember I said pulling levers? So at $400 per lead with a 4% conversion rate, if I just get the GCI up to 20K on the deal, then I break even. But I don't know about you. I don't love running a business that has to be like the exception has to be the rule. This is saying like, if we could get every lead that Zillow gave us to close at $650,000 and generate a $20,000 gross commission, we could probably break even. I'm not in love with that math. So the levers that a team leader is able to control is number one, the cost to acquire a lead. Number two, the conversion rate, which is really hard to change. And number three, the splits with your agents. Because if we go back to this math here, if I can get agents to take a 30% split on leads I create, then I can afford a $400 cost per acquisition because the math then tips in my favor, right? $400 per lead. Even if we go back to this one, 15K GCI, if I only have to pay the agent $4,500 and it costs me $10K to create it, I'm making $500 on that deal, right? Like it's still not great at 30%, but I can do it. But those are just the levers. Team leaders don't think about it this way, but these are the only three metrics you can change. What is your cost to acquire the lead? What is your conversion rate? And what is your split with your agents? I'll just tell you in Las Vegas, if an agent has to do any nurturing or converting of the lead, it's really hard to get agents to stay over the long haul if their split is below 50%. If we're giving them ready, willing, and able buyers, then there's a chance we're going to be able to get them to stay at 35%, 30%. But for the most part, if an agent has to do the nurturing and warming up, what I've seen in Vegas is they're willing to stay at 50%. If we get them down into that 30% range, it's going to be tough. Conversion rate. I beat my head against the wall about conversion rate. Like, I'm going to show you the math of what you need to do because the math doesn't lie, but it's really hard to change conversion rates. The best person I've ever seen convert leads is Angie Lauer. She runs our team. She converts at about a 7% clip. Brian's probably done some conversion coaching with her. She's a monster, but even she deals with 93% failure. She converts 7%, insanely good at it, insanely profitable, but she's dealing with 93% rejection. There is not, that I'm aware of, a lead purchasing mechanism that's going to close much higher than 5 to 7%. Zillow Flex is not a lead purchasing mechanism. You're literally making Zillow a partner in your business. They're taking 35%. So at 35% as a team leader, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but if you're giving Zillow 35, some markets are now 40, eventually it's going to be 50%. If you're giving Zillow Flex 35% of your business, you have 65% left. So what's your split then with the agent? The conversion rate better be higher than 50% if you're going to only give your agents 32%. So keep that in mind. All right, so these are the three levers you can pull. Here's how our system works. First of all, before I get into how to run one of our ads, you have to understand the mathematics with which conversion matters. So here's the truth. Face-to-face meetings convert at 20%, meaning for every listing appointment you go on, for every buyer consultation you have, you're going to put two of them, you can count on two of them putting money in your pocket. If you say my conversion rate's 80%, I don't believe you, but I would also say you're probably just not having enough face-to-face meetings. Here's how the math works. The dials you have, if you call 100 people, you're going to talk to 20 of them. If you talk to 20 people, you're going to set appointments with one. So 20% of dials turn into conversations. 5% of conversations turn into appointments. Only half of the appointments you have are actually going to show up. If more than that are showing up, you're not setting enough appointments. If less than that are showing up, you're not setting real appointments. Of the appointments that actually show up, 2 out of every 10 will close with you. You can say the math tips in your scale better than that, whatever. I'm dealing with like Brivity Bob and all of his numbers. I'm dealing with Jimmy Mackin and all of his numbers. I'm dealing with Chris Smith and all of his numbers. I'm dealing with Sharon Srivatsa and all of their numbers. Like, these are the numbers some of the smartest minds in the real estate space are comfortable living by. 20% of your conversations are going to, or dials are going to pick up the phone. 5% of your conversations are going to turn into appointments. Half of your appointments are going to actually happen. And of the appointments that happen, 20% of those are going to go into contract. Any question on the math there? Are we good? Okay. Let me just tell you this. The shortcut to all of my funny math is to tell you the number of conversations you have on a daily basis will determine your annual closings. We live by this. It's everything we do as a team. We had a team meeting the other day, and I told Brandon and Ange, here's the thing. If I know my kids are not doing their homework and then they get D's and F's, but I'm not doing anything to change the amount of work they're putting in, is it truly their fault? No, I'm not saying that people on our team are our children, but I'm just saying, if we know our agents are averaging 8 conversations a day and they have a goal of closing 20 deals per year, and I'm not calling them out on their BS, who's at fault? The reality is it's me, because I need to be a constant voice in their ear to go, listen, you're having 8 conversations a day. You know that that's only going to probably at best yield 8 closings per year. If somebody's having 20 conversations a day on average, they're going to average about 20 deals per year. If they're having 30 conversations a day, they'll probably do 30 deals a year. Now, you can't work Monday and Wednesday and have 50 conversations Monday and 50 conversations Wednesday and claim you're going to close 50 deals a year. It doesn't work that way. What you have to do is you have to take the number of conversations you have per week and divide it by 5. That will give you your average, because I'm confident that people will work more consistently number of weeks than they will number of days. So if somebody comes in and has 100 conversations Monday, 100 conversations Wednesday, and 20 conversations Friday, that's 220 conversations divided by 5 gives us what, like 42 conversations a day. They would crush it. Like, I'm confident that that agent's probably going to do about 40 deals a year. Now, if they don't do 40 deals a year, something else is broken. We can work on what they're saying. We can work on how they host their appointments. Some of them are living vicariously through their clients. You know who you are. And when I say living vicariously, if you walk into a kitchen and you go like, oh my gosh, like this place is why would they have painted the cabinets that color? Why would they have picked those countertops, right? And then you walk away and go like, I can't believe they didn't buy that house. It's like, well, yeah, you're living vicariously through your client. Like, you dog the house. Why would they ever choose it, right? But the shortcut to all of the math I'm talking about is the number of conversations you have on a daily basis is going to determine how many closings you're going to have. So 25 deals in 2025, you're going to have to hold, here's some of the math, 125 appointments. You're going to have to set 250 appointments. And it's off the screen here, but in order to set 250 appointments, you're going to have 5,000 conversations. But if you take 5,000 and divide it by 200, the magic happens that 5,000 conversations over the course of a year. And if I say I'm going to give you 165 days off, all you have to do is have conversations 200 days a year. 5,000 divided by 200 equals 25. You have to have 25 conversations a day. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. All right, let's get into some of the this is how we run our team. Now, full disclosure, we stopped really toward the end of last year, and Brian knows this because we were working with Brian and his team. We saw toward like October, November of 2023, people became very pessimistic about real estate. So I will tell you, in order to run a Joe Taylor Group marketing engine, you have to have optimism. People have been very pessimistic for the last 18 months. Now, I'm wearing a very neutral tie today. I'm not going to tell you politically which way you should vote or whatever, but I will tell you the reports I'm getting back from agents is after the election, people are feeling very optimistic about the future when it comes to the economy. And so I think now we're ramping back up our marketing and advertising because people are optimistic again. When people are optimistic, they click on ads. When people are optimistic about the economy, they get on Facebook and they see a house and they ask about it. So we have really scaled back our marketing and advertising over the last 18 months because no matter how much money we were spending, people were just kind of pessimistic. But moving forward, I think we have a little bit more optimism. All right, so let's run the same math equation that we ran with Zillow leads on Joe Taylor Group leads. I'm confident in my market, I can generate leads for $20 a piece. I think in your market, I could probably do it for like 10. Brian, I don't remember how much we were spending per lead in Florida, but like we have 130,000 people in our database. It's harder for us to find fresh people in Vegas than it is for us to go to a market we haven't advertised in and generate those leads. Our cost right now is about $20 per lead. So if I take, so similar to Vegas, okay. So if I take $20 per lead and I take that exact same conversion rate divided by 0.04, that's $500 per closing. So that's only pulling that one lever. I'm not changing anything else. The closing is still $15,000. The agent's still getting $7,500. But because I reduced at the same conversion rate my cost of acquisition, we went from a $2,500 loss to a $7,000 profit. Now, full disclosure, we still have to pay for employees. We still have to pay for toilet paper. We still have to keep the lights on, right? Like there's other costs that go into running our business. But just the math of generating the lead, converting the lead, and paying out the agent, that one way we found to hack the system is to generate leads at a lower cost by doing it ourselves. We remove the middleman, basically. So let me show you what some of the Joe Taylor Group ads look like. Now I'll tell you, the number one clicked upon image on the internet is attractive people. I don't personally believe that real estate agents should be using physical attraction to gain clients. I think that there's some security issues when that happens. The good news is the second most clicked upon image on the internet happens to just be housing and housing related things. So I'm not just saying, Joe, like you're telling me that the second most clicked upon image is real estate ads? No, but what is clicked upon is kitchens and bathrooms and pools and master bedrooms and master bathrooms and things like that. Like people love how, I mean, it's why Chip and Joanna Gaines even have a TV show, right? People love seeing things about housing. It's why Griselda's back, the back of her image on Zoom right now is a really cool looking house, right? With a great view. People love to see that. And so our ads have four things to consider, but number 3 right here, images are everything. So if you go from this call and start creating ads and your ads don't work, I may tell you one of the reasons they don't work is because your images suck. And you may go, well, no, Joe, they're like super high resolution. I'm not talking about your images stink because of the resolution. I'm saying your images may not be attractive. So what do we have here? This is the Vegas equivalent of a crack house. Now, by crack house, I don't mean doing drugs in it, but I mean it's a one-story property. I know what people want in Vegas. I don't know as much what people want in your marketplaces. But what I know in Vegas is people love one-story properties. They love really open floor plans. To be honest, this house right here, I'd have to ask Alyssa. I think, Alyssa, are you on this call? You could turn your camera on and talk if you want to. We use this house like not 13, maybe like 8 ads on this house. We probably generated hundreds and hundreds of leads from this house because it kept popping. Probably not because of the kitchen, probably not because of the dining area, but this right here is the milkshake that has brought all the boys to the yard. Like, people love big, huge pools in Las Vegas. I think Florida's probably similar, right? Like, if you live in Florida, you live in Vegas, like the summers suck. So all we do with this house is say it's priceless, locationless, but it's got RV parking, it's got pool and spa, and it's an open one-story floor plan. So, and it had a casita. Those are like, that's like everything that everyone has ever wanted in Las Vegas. So think of running your ads like dating profiles. Why don't I list price and location? Why wouldn't I list, like, I have a crazy ex-wife on a dating profile? I don't have a crazy ex-wife, but if I was creating a dating profile, I would never talk about anything negative. I would never say, like, yeah, my 14-year-old daughter won't talk to me. Like, why would you ever put that in your dating profile? Everything in your dating profile is going to be the greatest thing that ever happened, right? So we never talk about price in our ads, not because we're trying to withhold things from clients, but because I don't want people to disqualify themselves from a house based on price. Because what do I know about the price of a house that they might not know? It's negotiable. I also know that they might be able to afford more house than they think they can afford. And so for those reasons, I never just want to say this house is $1.1 million, because they may go like, oh, well, I can only afford 900. What they may not know is they could actually afford a million with an interest rate buy down, and the seller might be motivated and might come down. What they also aren't taking into consideration is that while they may not purchase this house, one of their friends might. What they're also not taking into consideration is, while this price may be 1.1 and they can only spend 9, I may have 3 other houses just like it that we could get down into the price range. And so it's not that I'm trying to keep things from people, but what I don't want to do is post a price in an ad and then have them disqualify themselves. The second thing I never price about or talk about is location. And when I say location, I don't just mean area of the city. I do mean area of the city, but I also mean, I don't talk about it being on a golf course. I don't talk about it having a strip view. If I lived in Miami, I wouldn't talk about it being on the ocean. Because while I may think those are things that add value and enjoyment of living in the house, what it also may do is make people think they can't afford it. So they also, like Las Vegas, if you've ever been here, is a big, huge bowl with the strip running down the middle. I'm a West Side guy. I don't live on the East Side. I barely ever go to the East Side. And East Side people don't want to live on the West Side. So if this is on the West Side of town and someone on the East Side of town is looking at this ad and it says, hey, West Side location, they may go like, yeah, I don't want to live on the West Side. What they may not know, again, is that I have a house just like this on the East Side that would work for them, right? My only goal with creating this ad, not talking about where it is, how much it is, and using attractive images, is to create, you guessed it, a conversation. So we use a couple of things to help us. We let robots do all the heavy lifting. If you've never used ManyChat, I would encourage you, as soon as we hang up from this call, go on YouTube. How do I use ManyChat? ManyChat. JR is 100% right. The number one thing we're using to create these leads is pure curiosity, which is why over the last 18 months, with the pessimism that people have felt about our economy, they've just been less curious. People have been kind of hunkered down, right? So I let robots do all the heavy lifting. By that, I mean, you're going to get a whole bunch of responses like this. Price and location, please. Is this in the Southwest? Price and location, please. People know that I didn't put the price and location in there. So I have a robot that responds to every single message, or with a message to every comment. So the robot, as soon as you comment on one of my posts, will post just DM'd you, exclamation point. It's the exact same freaking response to everybody. And then what it does is it shoots them a message in Facebook Messenger that says, hey, Romy, I saw your comment on our post. I'm going to have one of our agents text you all of the information about this property, including the price and location. What's the best phone number to text you at? That's the end of the robot, because as soon as they respond, they usually will respond with, well, why don't you just tell me right here? Well, that's when Alyssa has to hop in and go, well, I'm not a real estate agent, so I'm technically not supposed to be quoting price. I'll just have one of the agents shoot you a text message. They don't have access to this messenger account. What's the best phone number for you? Well, how about you go F yourself? That's when we get to point number 2, which is then we just block them. We have probably blocked 10,000 people in the city of Las Vegas over the last 10 years. Like, great. If you don't want to play my game, then I don't care to play with you either. But Joe, what if they would someday become a client? The type of person that tells you to go F yourself is probably never going to become a client. And so, like, become, number 2, very active in blocking people. Number 3, once the robot creates a conversation, then you watch the person's response. Your job, or an assistant's job, or a VA's job, is to purely manage the messages. So then how do we calculate our cost per lead? Cost per closing is done by saying how many deals did we close divided by how many leads did we create. Cost per lead is a very simple metric of saying how much did we spend and how many leads were created. So like on a day when we spend $400, we would expect to get 20 leads. That's at about a $20 per lead cost. Now, the good thing about the way I'm doing it, other people, Ylopo and whoever, will do forced registration ads for you. So in a forced registration ad, one of the reasons I don't love it is they will, and I think Ylopo is great as well. But one of the things I don't love about the way they run their ads is that somebody can just put their information in there. Now, Facebook may even autofill their information in a forced registration lead, but then they can always change it. And that's where you get Daffy Duck at gofyourself.com. And it's like, that just throws everything off. Think about the psychology of what I've walked you through here. There is absolutely no reason for somebody to give you fake information. If I'm interacting with Lindsay and I know her name is Lindsay Broadwell, and she requested information on a property, and I say, well, let me have one of my agents text you all the information. I'm not actually an agent. And Lindsay goes, well, I prefer you do it here. And I say, well, no, I totally get that. I'm not a real estate agent. So quoting price and things like that is something that I'm not technically allowed to do in the state of Nevada. Okay, cool. Here's my phone number. Why would she give me a fake phone number? She'll either tell me to go fly a kite or she'll give me her real phone number. Now, our agents are trained. Hey, Lindsay, this is Angie. Sorry for all the hoops we made you jump through. Here's a link to this property. It's 1.1 million in the northwest part of town. Just out of curiosity, does that fit your price and location desires? Lindsay's going to get the message. Now, she may tell Angie to go fly a kite, but at least we know that it's Lindsay, because then Angie's going to be very active in over the next couple of months. Hey, Lindsay, not sure if this one works for you, but here's 3 more pictures of a property with some vague information to try to get Lindsay to engage. People don't care about us as real estate professionals. On the list of trusted individuals, we're really, really low. So what we try to do is we try to say, Lindsay, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm a lifelong Las Vegas resident. I'm a proud husband and father. I enjoy long walks on the beach. I try to make you like me as a human being. What I'm talking about is recognizing that people expect certain things from us. And the reality is when they become my client, I totally change that narrative, but I'm going to keep the status quo in our relationship. Lindsay will know that I am the type of person who sends her deals and she tells me whether or not that deal works for her. I'm totally comfortable that being our relationship until the time comes that she actually wants to go see properties. All right, Dorothy, how much did you say your spend is and how many leads do you get from that spend? It really depends. On average, our cost is about $20 per lead. If it starts to creep too much up beyond that, we've either done one of two things wrong. We've either posted pictures that are not attractive enough, or we've given out information thinking we didn't. So all the time people will hijack the system, and Brian will say, like, I didn't say anything I shouldn't say. And I'm like, oh, really? Let me read your ad. And it's like minutes from, the beach, or minutes from Clearwater Beach. And I'm like, well, Brian, dude, you just told them that it's like steps from the beach. What is that person supposed to think? They're going to now think it's expensive. Or they'll post pictures with the strip in the background. It's like the house and the strip. And I'm like, well, dude, you just showed them where it was, because anyone that understands the geography of Las Vegas would see that and go, oh, cool. Yeah, that's on the west side. But you probably also picked up a golf course or something in between there. And they're going to go like, dude, I could never afford that. And so for us, our cost that's acceptable is around $20 per lead. Now, in order to get to $20 per lead, though, we have to play the Facebook math game. Here's what that game looks like. If I reverse engineer that I have 20 agents that I want to give 20 lead opportunities to, then I would say 20 times 20 is what, 400? And then I would say 400 times 20 is 8,000. I would know that I need to spend $8,000 on Facebook ads to generate the 400 leads I need to give 20 agents 20 leads. Does that make sense? So I just reverse engineer it out. And then my battle is, and here's what I love about Alyssa. She's running our ads right now, and she's very cautious with my money. So if an ad gets going and it's like she's $100 into it and she's only generated 2 leads, she knows she's at $50 a lead right now. So then when you get to that point, every plane that you've ever flown on has a go, not go moment. By that, I mean, they have a certain speed with a certain amount of runway left for which they could dethrottle and not like crash through fences. So they get to that point and you don't know it's happening, but it's only happened to me once where we were like ripping down the runway and the pilots like slammed on the brakes and went back to the gate. Then we get there and they go like, hey, while we were going down the runway, we got to notice that the door wasn't properly latched. And so they got to that go, no go moment and they throttled it back. Well, in Facebook ads, you're going to get to a go, not go moment where you're like, all right, cool. I've spent $100 and I've only gotten 3 leads. And then you have to ask yourself this question. Do I keep it going, believing that by spending more money, I'm going to get more leads, therefore bring the cost down? Or do I just kill the ad? At different times in our marketing life cycle, that answer is differently. Like I'm to the point now to where I can't even really evaluate the quality of an ad until I've spent about $200. At about $200, if my cost per lead is about $40, I know that by spending $400 is probably going to come down to about 20 because there is a magnification principle. But keeping in mind, I've got to feed 20 people 20 leads, so I'm going to spend $8,000. So then it's just a game of spending that $8,000 the most responsible way I possibly can. So you've got to know your budget. And what I do is, let me just see what else I have on the screen. The bottom line. All right, cool. If you want a recording of this call, I'm going to turn off my screen, but if you want a recording of this call, we're going to be posting it on Instagram. All you got to do is comment either with your number 1 takeaway or like the middle finger emoji, whatever you want to comment, and you'll get a copy of the recording. All right. So, I reverse engineer it all based on how many leads I need to create, based on how many agents I need to feed. And so if you're running ads just for yourself, I'll tell you 2 things. Like the job of a lead generator is to create a waterfall of busyness. I've said it differently at times, like a waterfall of suck, I call it. So like the lead generator's job is to make the lead converter's job a nightmare because they're so busy. And the lead converter's job, if they're not the showing agent, is to make the showing agent's job so busy. And the showing agent's job is to make the escrow coordinator's job so busy, right? And so it creates this waterfall of work. The problem I have with agents generating leads for themselves is they will self-sabotage. What do I mean by that? Well, I play golf and I want to play golf. And like this Saturday, I've got a 2-man scramble with my son at our club that we belong to. So if I'm generating my own leads and a lead comes in that wants to see a house on Saturday, it's going to frustrate my plans. So then what is an effective way for me to do it? It's for me to separate out the job of the lead generator to the lead converter and showing agent. Like whoever's generating leads needs to, without regard for quality of life, generate leads for the person that's going to take the leads and convert them. Like that, like Brando's on my team. He's on this call. If Brando's like, hey man, sorry, but I can't call that. I can't go show that house. I'm like, dude, that sounds like a you problem. That's not a me problem. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll just take that lead and give it to somebody else. But think about the psychology. If you're generating your own leads, you're just going to sabotage yourself because you're like, dude, I don't want to freaking show houses on Saturday. So I'm just a big believer that the person generating the leads needs to be different than the person converting the leads. And then by that same token, if the lead converting person is also the transaction management person, like think about if you're an agent that wears all those hats. You generate the leads, you call and convert the leads, you put them in escrow, you then have to manage and facilitate the escrow and do the closing and all the documents and everything. Like you're just going to be really inefficient. I believe that the job, like for efficiency purposes, this is just my own belief system, there needs to be a lead generator, there needs to be a converter closer, there needs to be a transaction management and fulfillment person. If at least you don't have those 3 jobs separated out, there's a weakness in your game. Like if you're generating the leads and converting the leads and managing the escrow, I promise you this is what your real estate career looks like. You generate a bunch of leads, you get them in escrow, you close them, and then you go back to 0 and you start generating leads again. We have them all separated out so that Alyssa's job is to generate leads without regard for the quality of life for the person she's generating leads for. The person who's generating leads needs to put deals in escrow without regard for the quality of life of the person that's facilitating the closing. So if my closing officer is also my inspector, like there's a problem. She's going to go like, dude, I can't do that many inspections and manage that many files. And so then it suffocates the system. Not sure if that makes sense or not, but that's my 2 cents. All right. Questions, comments, concerns, smart remarks. Deonta, you're going to get the recording. Just go on Instagram. Alyssa will probably have it posted in the next hour or 2. Comment on the Instagram and it'll send you the recording of this. You could fast forward through all the crap you don't care about, get to the meat of it. Brian will tell you the system's not overly complicated. I think what becomes complicated is people they sabotage themselves. Like they're generating leads for themselves. So they're like, oh, like, it didn't work because I was doing it for a few days and then I got busy. And it's like, well, yeah, it's like, you can't do it that way. Right. Maurice, can a converter be a VA or should this be a realtor's position? Great question. If you have to pay someone else to convert the leads, then you need to reduce the split with your agents. Now, if you are the agent, I think that's a great idea, is have a VA call all of your leads, but you have to understand that you're going to get a lower quality of conversion because I don't know about you, but when I pick up my phone and I'm like, this is Joe. Hello, Joseph. I'm like, okay. Like, all right. It's like my standard response is just take me off your list. I'm on the do not call registry, right? Like that's the problem with VAs. We do use them. I believe in the agent being the converter unless you are the agent generating your own leads. Like if you're generating leads for yourself, send them to a VA and have the VA come back when they're ready. Now, I will tell you, little plug for a company that I love so much called Real. Real is just announced Leo AI, in which an AI robot will start interacting with leads via text message and let you know when they're ready. I don't think it's actually launched yet, but I think there's a lot to be done in the AI space to get you to leverage AI to do some lead conversion for you. but I personally believe agents should be calling their leads themselves. Anything else? Okay, it's good to see my favorite. I'm trying to remember my favorite Brit. Rebecca, you're from Great Britain, right? I almost said Australia. They're so close. The Australians are like your hood rat cousins that got sent there like 300 years ago in Prison Island.
All the criminals. That's right.
Yeah, all the criminals got sent there. Yeah. The great movie though is Australia. It's a great movie. Are we having a VA put together ads? Right now, Alyssa's doing it. We've had VAs do it in the past. In my experience, my biased experience, whenever a VA gets involved, the quality goes down. Whether that's the generating of the lead, the nurturing of the lead, or like generating of the ad, the nurturing of the lead, the like appointment setting. Whenever a VA gets involved, I do think VAs play a good role in like paperwork. Like I think there's some cool stuff to be done there. But when it like this is like I have to walk out to Alyssa's desk and go, hey, how is this ad doing? And I see something. I'm like, hey, we got to change this or that, right? And I love that human interaction. Could I call a guy in the Philippines and walk him through that? I certainly could, but I just find here's how I would think of it. You can have a VA do this, but your cost per lead generated may go from 20 to 35. That may still work for you, but you're probably going to get less like your dollar per lead created is probably going to go up. How many leads do you recommend per agent per month? It's all a factor of conversion. So let's work this backwards, Juan. It comes down to how many deals an agent wants to close per year. So if I can reverse engineer this and say, let's say an agent on my team has a goal of closing 20 transactions. Let's also say that 5 of those deals are going to come from their friends and family. So then they're counting on me to provide enough leads to convert 15 of them. That's so easy to run that math. I would go 15 divided by 0.04, 4% conversion rate. They would have to get 375 leads to generate 14 or 15 deals. So then I would say, well, if each lead cost me $20, I would have a $7,500 investment in that agent. But then if I would say they're going to close 15 deals and the average GCI is, call it $12,000, they're going to generate $180,000 in GCI. And if they get half of it, I'm going to make $90,000 on my 7,500 spend. That works. I might have gone a little fast for you guys there, but it's just very simply how many leads do you need to generate is just a function of saying, what's the conversion rate going to be? If the conversion rate is 2% and you're trying to generate 15 deals, 15 divided by 0.02, you'd have to generate 750 leads to get 15 closings at a 2% conversion rate. So it really depends on the agent and what their conversion rate is. So 750 leads divided by 12 is 60 a month. 60 a month at $20 is $1,250 a month. You're investing in that person. The math could still work because 1,250 times 12 is 15,000. And as we talked about, if 15 deals are going to yield 180,000 in GCI, you're still going to make 90. If it costs you 15, the math may still work for you. But I love that question, Juan, because most people don't reverse engineer that way. And they just spend money and then they just wait to see what happens. And this is why, story time with Uncle Joe, this is why real estate teams don't make money. Talk to Spring Benson. She coaches some of the best teams in the country. Her team is making money, but she'll tell you most real estate teams do not make money. They don't make money because people don't reverse engineer the math. So they don't know how much they're spending on leads. They don't know their conversion rate. They don't know how many calls their agents are making. They don't know how many appointments their agents are setting. And then they just like at the end of the year go like, to end where we began, like, dude, we did 2 million in GCI. Who cares? If it cost a team 1.2 million to do 2 million in GCI, of which they only recapture 30% of, it costs $1.2 million to get 600,000 back. That doesn't make sense. So the next time you see a metric of our team does X amount in GCI, I hope the little radar, I hope I'm living rent free in your head and you're able to say, wait a minute, Joe told me that that number is not real. It's not. And let me rip the curtain back even further. Our team over the last 18 months has done about 3 million in gross commissions, and we lost $100,000. It's not great. We're the number 3 team in the state of Nevada, and we lost $100,000 on 3 million GCI. We're okay with it because there's so many other ways in which we make money. But Brandon knows. Brandon sits in our meetings. Brandon, how many times have I said that over the last year? Like, we're not making money. So now what levers are we going to pull and push and whatever? Or in reality, because we run a profitable network, because we run a profitable investment company, because our team feeds our title company, because of all those things, we're okay with breaking even because we're going to make money in other ways. But if your only way of making money is your real estate team, you better make sure you understand your numbers enough to get to a position of profitability, or else you're going to be bragging about GCI while losing your shirt. Okay, guys, thank you. If you want a copy of this, just go to Instagram. We'll have it up there shortly. Hope this helps. Feel free to DM me if you have any questions. Other than that, have a great day.